Today we're going to be looking at the public school option in Korea. So what does applying for EPIK look like? We'll be talking about the whole process from beginning to end, kind of setting expectations and figuring out what you'll need to know and what you'll need to do along the way. So let's get started. So let's start off with the basics. What does teaching with EPIK really look like? So let's start off with teaching hours. You'll have about 23 teaching hours a week, whereas with private schools you have 30, so it's definitely a lot less. You'll usually work around 40 hours a week, so you'll teach 23 and then you'll have planning and meetings and things like that. You'll get about 23 paid days off, anywhere from 20 to 23. They're preset. So they're not kind of you get to choose whatever days you want. The school will let you know when those days will be. A major difference between private and public schools is that in a public school classroom, you'll have a Korean co-teacher. So their amount of involvement does vary a ton. So they could be, controlling the class and you're helping them, or they could just be sitting in the background, maybe not even coming towards the end of the semester and you're really leading everything. So there's a lot of variety, but they definitely help with classroom management, especially in the beginning of the year, which can be nice for new teachers. With EPIK, you'll have larger class sizes, so up to 30 students in a class, which can be a lot, but again, that co-teacher does really help that. You can also teach at multiple schools with EPIK, so they've been kind of pulling back the amount of teachers that they can really employ, and so what happens is, as a native teacher, you might have 3 different schools. One that you go to Monday, Wednesday, Friday, another that you go to Tuesday, and then your last one that you go to Thursday. So you could have multiple schools, multiple co-teachers, and a lot of different classes. Oftentimes you'll also be the only native teacher at the school. So that's a difference compared to private schools. So kind of the pros are the work-life balance. The con is, more than one school, so maybe you don't have as close-knit relationship to all the students. And you can be the only native. The one other thing that I'll talk about a bit more kind of later on is that you don't get as much say over location. So on your EPIK application, you'll write a province preference, but you might not get that. And you won't know exactly where you're going until you actually get to Korea. So we'll move on, but I'll loop back to that to give you a little bit more information about how that will work. So all in all, if EPIK feels like the right fit, you really like that work-life balance, you like having a co-teacher in the room, that's great. So the first thing we'll do is jump right into the EPIK application. There's a lot of different steps that kind of bring us all the way till the end. Here's a brief overview of those steps. So submit your EPIK application. It's an additional application from your CIEE application. You'll gather documents that I'll let you know what to get and how to get those. You'll have an EPIK interview over Skype. If you pass that, you'll send those documents that you gathered before to me, and I will send them to Korea. And then we'll wait and hopefully receive that job offer and the province where you'll be teaching. So I'll go into more details of each of those steps on the next slide. So submitting your EPIK application is really the first step. So it's the first step of many, but it's definitely an important one. So it's comprised of resume type information, a photo, personal essay, and a lesson plan. I've put together a ton of information, a guide for the application, a guide for the lesson plan, resources that you can look up and figure out kind of how to put your best foot forward. And then after you submit it, we'll actually have a phone call. So you'll submit it online and then it won't go directly to EPIK. It'll come to me. So we'll have a phone call. We'll go over the entire thing. I'll look at each field, make sure it's filled in correctly. We'll go over your personal essay and your lesson plan and make sure that it's all as good as it's going to get. And then I'll submit the final version to EPIK. So that's a big thing that going through CIEE really gets you, is having that second set of eyes to help make sure we're putting your best foot forward. It's important that we go through this as quickly as possible. EPIK does function as a first come, first serve. So it's important that, if you want to move forward with EPIK, you work on that EPIK application, you submit it, you have the phone call with me, and then I go ahead and submit that for you as quickly as possible. So depending on when you submit your EPIK application, you might be able to start these afterwards, or you might really want to get them started as soon as you get accepted into CIEE, and you'll get that information. So a few documents that take time are the apostilled background check and the apostilled diploma. By now, you've probably heard me speak of both of them, but make sure you're getting those. It's very, very important. EPIK also requires 2 official sealed transcripts and original letters of recommendation with ink signatures. So there's very specific requirements for those letters, and I'll go through the letters and point out, if we need to change anything, what we need to change, and then help figure out, if you or myself will be contacting those recommenders to get the letters. So we have some time to gather these, but if we get to the part where you pass your EPIK interview and you don't have these documents, it can create a real issue later on. So it's important to get started with these as soon as possible. The background check is only valid for 6 months, however. So it's very important that you don't start that, if you're going in the spring, so you're going in late February, I don't want you starting that in June. You'll have to wait until August. So make sure you just check in with that if you're on the early side. So now you've submitted your application, you've started working on your documents, and now we're waiting for the EPIK interview. This can take a while. So if you submit your application in late August, you might not get an interview until early November. It depends on the year, it depends on the person. There's a lot of variables, but it is and can be a long wait. So I usually say 4 to 9 weeks, and it can really be, anywhere within that. If EPIK would like to interview you, they'll let me know, and I will let you know as soon as possible. You'll get about a 3 to 5 day heads up, sometimes a little bit more than that, so you'll know that the interview is going to be happening. It's common for EPIK during the interview to ask you to change a lot of minor things throughout your application, so be ready for that. Have your application in front of you and be ready to take notes during the interview. After you've finished that up, EPIK usually lets me know about 2 to 3 days after your interview if you've passed. If you've passed, that's when we'll send all the documents, and I'll talk more about that on the next slide. So I'll send a checklist of documents. Don't worry too much about that now, but the main things it will include are that apostilled diploma and apostilled background check. If you've not graduated yet or not received your diploma, you'll be sending me an apostilled letter, or sorry, just the letter of expected graduation. It will not be apostilled yet. You'll also send the transcripts, a passport-sized photo, copy of your passport, and then a few other kind of smaller things that are easy to get ready in a day or so. So I'll give you a checklist with all of that. It's really important, again, to do this as quickly as possible. The longer we wait at every step, the more and more people are sending their documents in and kind of getting in front of you in the line. So we really want to make sure that you're moving forward as quickly as possible throughout each step of the process. EPIK has now received your documents, they've gone through them, they've, decided, yep, everything's here, nothing's missing, it's good to go. Way earlier on, I mentioned the province placement, kind of the whole preference of that. On your EPIK application, you'll get to write one province preference. They will look at that at this point and hopefully send your application out to that province to see if they'd like to hire you. Based on numbers, sometimes they will and sometimes they won't. If your province preference says, nope, we don't need any more teachers, or for whatever reason they're not going to hire you, EPIK won't simply say, too bad, you don't get a placement. Rather, they'll send your information to other provinces. Once a province would like to make an offer, they'll let EPIK know and we'll let you know. So at this stage, you get that one placement option. You can say no and turn it down, but you won't get another. If you turn your if you turn the placement down, what happens is you cannot apply to EPIK for the next 2 seasons. And there's a few reasons why that is. At this point, it's really not an option anymore to turn towards private schools either for that term, because it's so late in the process. You know, sometimes we can, but you'll have to redo that background check and redo that apostille diploma. So it's not a great kind of strategy to hope you get your province and then decide on something else if you don't. It's really important to know that you might have to be flexible with that going into EPIK. So once you get a province placement, you've gotten a job, this is when you can really be excited and relieved. It's a guarantee now. You've gotten your placement in Korea. You're going to teach with EPIK. It's an exciting moment. Sometimes you get your province preference, sometimes you don't. But it's a great moment when you know you're going and you're going to be teaching with EPIK in Korea. In between getting that job offer and arriving, you'll go through the visa process, which is actually quite simple, especially for EPIK. So I didn't want to talk too much about that here, but I'll walk you through it when it's time. Once you arrive in Korea, the first thing you do will be to go to the EPIK orientation. So that's a multi-day orientation. It depends how long that is, depending on when you arrive, but the full length is 9 days. So you go through a lot of training, you get a lot of information. It's a really great time. You'll be staying at a university with all the other EPIK teachers, so a great way to meet a ton of people as well. Right at the end of orientation, that's when you'll get your specific placement, so the age group in the school that you'll be working with. And right at the end, you'll go, you'll leave the orientation and you'll head off to your school. The CIEE orientation in Seoul will be a few weeks after that. So with private schools, everyone's arriving on different days, so we don't do just one big orientation upon arrival. Rather, you have that orientation, a little bit after that, which works well because you can go to a second orientation, have different questions. It has a completely different feel to the EPIK orientation, a lot more laid back, a lot more just kind of support for you, it's different. It's really fun though. Everyone loves it. I had a great time when I went as well. So that's kind of it for, from beginning to end, how the whole process works. It's a lot of information to take in, I'm sure, but I'm here every step of the way, telling you what to do, when to do it. I'll remind you of all these steps. You can always reach out and ask, so don't feel like you need to understand everything right now. So thanks for watching. Just kind of a little recap. Teaching in Korea is really an amazing opportunity. You get truly immersed in another culture. Most people have an amazing experience. A lot of people continue their time in Korea. But I want to tell you kind of what the process will look like. It's not all going to happen at once. There's going to be a lot of waiting. There's going to be a lot of uncertainty. And it's just better to know that ahead of time. If you have questions, like I said before, please reach out. I'm always here to help. I completely understand, the whole process. I've been through it. So CIEE is here to support you in whatever you need. So thanks for watching, and I'll talk to you soon.